All right, since it's found footage week over in Killer Flicks, I decided to knock out the Paranormal Activity series, which I've been wanting to do for a while. Now, the first thing I want to say here is that I am actually a fan of this series, so if you're looking for someone to bash on these, or if you hate them, and you're here to just be like, these are stupid, like, I don't get it. Why are you watching this? Like, I mean, it's your right to do it. I don't understand. But I do enjoy these. I've enjoyed all six. Definitely like some more than others. But yeah, I have enjoyed all of them. So let's get into Paranormal Activity 1. The one that started it all, obviously. Now, I remember when this was originally being talked about. And a lot of people were, you know, crazy about it, and it had a lot of buzz following it on what the concept was. You know, it was just another Blair Witch kind of marketing campaign, real footage and whatnot. And there was a thing online that it was like, I don't remember what they said exactly, but it said like, demand it. And if they got like 1 million votes or something in like a week, they would release it wide theatrically. And it got like the 1 million in like an hour. This is my memory. It might be a little fuzzy, but I'm pretty sure that is accurate. And then, yeah, it was released in theaters wide shortly thereafter, and I went opening night. And let me tell you something, man. People were fucking terrified. Same experience I had in the Blair Witch Project. I saw that right when it came out. I saw it in Orange. The block of Orange. There was only 2 places showing it in the country at that time, and it was the block of Orange and someplace in New York. And I went to one of those early showings, and people really thought it was real. I'm not going to get into that too much here. I'll talk about that when I do the Blair Witch films. But for the Paranormal Activity movie, man, people were fucked up. And my brother's mother, not my mother, his mother, was a nurse at the time, and she actually had people. And also my stepmother as well, she's a nurse. They had people coming in to the hospital after watching this movie, scared out of their minds, having full-blown panic attacks, having to be seen in the hospital. I mean, these movies fuck people up. When they think it's real, yes, and I know people are so quick to be like, how could they possibly think this is real? Well, they did. That's not really for you to say. They did. And it terrified them. I don't think anything's gonna scare you more than watching something you think is real. I mean, when you watch the, Halloween or whatever, you can understand that that could happen. But you can always tell yourself, it's just a movie, it's just a movie. If you truly believe the Paranormal Activity movies, like the first one, I don't think anyone thought the next few were, but some maybe, or Blair Witch or something. I totally understand that. Like, if you actually, like, if I really thought I was watching true events, like if a buddy showed me this and was like, dude, look at what's been going on at my house, I'd be fucking scared out of my mind. I mean, honestly, I think most of us would. I'd be fascinated, but it would be terrifying. So I totally understand it. And when I went and saw this, yeah, I mean, I wasn't scared. I don't really get scared at these movies, but I was tense and kind of nervous at moments, because it was just, I don't know, that whole theater holding its breath all at once and any given moment, because films like this really they demand your full undivided attention, and audiences, especially home viewers, just don't really give that all that much anymore. Paranormal Activities were meant for a theater experience because you can't bring out your cell phones and you can't talk. Some fucking dickheads do, obviously, but for the majority, most people do pay attention to the film and they don't say anything, and that's the best way to view a film like this. You can't have your cell phone out. You can't have the lights on. You can't have, you need a very controlled environment to enjoy a film like this. And of course, there's going to be plenty of people who just outright think nothing happens in the entire movie and it's completely pointless, and they wait 5 minutes for a fucking cup to move. I get it, but I don't know. It works. I enjoy that style. Now, getting into the film itself, this is definitely the film that reinvigorated the found footage subgenre. Now, Blair Witch was, you know, one of the first movies to popularize the subgenre. I mean, I know Cannibal Holocaust is like the first real one, but Blair Witch, when that came out, that was a big, big deal. But there wasn't a ton of found footage films that came out in between Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity. There were some, like The Last Broadcast and other ones like that. But Paranormal Activity is really the movie that spawned the found footage subgenre. So if you want to blame any film for that, because I know a lot of people hate that subgenre, this is the film to blame, not the Blair Witch Project. I also find it funny that if, you know, when this movie was originally made with that alternate ending, obviously we're talking spoilers, and we're talking spoilers about alternate endings and everything. In the alternate ending, Katie slits her own throat, kills herself. And they would have probably come up with something else to do in the sequels that follow, but it would have completely changed the story in which they told. I mean, Katie couldn't have returned much except for in the second one because it's a prequel. And I guess she could have returned for her part in the third one, but the ending of the second one would be much different. So it's just funny how those little choices and those little changes can completely alter the film and how it's done. So the stories, should I say, the films that come after it. And another thing with this series, this mic, it's serious. I don't know what the hell to do with it. It won't stay put. Another thing with this series, especially the first three, because I just watched the first three tonight. Again, I love the male lead characters in all three of these movies. I think they're all hilarious. Something about them, most of the lines they say make me laugh out loud. And Mika, I mean, I remember being in the theater and just thinking Mika was so funny. And so me in a lot of ways, like he's so skeptical, always a sarcastic asshole with all of it. And even when things are going on, he's like calling it out to prove his toughness and to, I don't know, also push back against the fact that he's even starting to believe. So he has to be like, is that all you got? And you're nothing, you know. I get that. I totally understand it. And all the chicks in this series as well. I think Katie is very attractive, as well as pretty much the rest of the girls in these movies. So that's always a plus for me. And I really think that for a ultra low budget movie like this, just a couple of people making a found footage style horror movie in a guy's house, you know, the Oren Peli's house. I think the chemistry between Mika and Katie is really solid. They feel like a genuine couple. I think their acting in this movie is fantastic. This is almost like a student film, and the acting is really, really solid. So I don't think they would get as much credit for that, but it definitely feels real. And I understand why people would think it was real, at least for that point anyway. And I'm a big fan of subtle, creepy, slow burn type movies when they're done right. And this one is for me. I know people will argue with me on that and say nothing happens. I've already said that before, but I disagree. I think you don't need much to happen for things to be creepy and eerie. And this movie proves it for the people it worked with anyway. And there's a lot of foreshadowing in this. I mean, whoever, you know, Chris Landon, who wrote some of the sequels, he definitely went and watched this and was paying attention to a lot of things they say, because there's a lot of foreshadowing for the future sequels. Like she mentions her sister Christy, and they were 8 and 5 when it started happening. And that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like the alternate ending. Those are just little bits of dialogue that you threw in there just to have some kind of backstory. It was written in a moment, I'm sure. And it greatly affects the movies that follow. Like that little bit of dialogue, that like 20, 30 seconds of dialogue that Katie's having with this, you know, paranormal dude made part 3 happen. I always find that interesting in movies that have no planned sequels, like a Saw or this, and it spawns tons of sequels and there's an actual continuity to them. Just little quips like this, little tiny, like little, oh, I'm gonna take from that. I'm gonna write the whole movie off of this like little phrase. It's like Rogue One. I mean, in the opening crawl, you know, it says something about, you know, freaking rebellion, people stealing the Death Star plans, you know, and they made an entire movie off of that just one line in the opening crawl. So I was just watching this being like, wow, like a whole movie was written off that one tiny piece of dialogue. And the fact that she said she had a sister Christy, I mean, that basically right there made the whole second film happen. All right, I'm dwelling on this too long, but it fascinates me as a horror writer myself. And another thing, I've said this in other reviews on more modern day horror, like The Conjuring or Insidious or whatever, is the whole new spin on things, that it's not the house that's haunted, it's you. Like, go wherever you want. Go get a hotel, move to fucking Bolivia, you know, go stay on that little island that they try to hide from Hogwarts letters from. Like, they're gonna find you. Okay, they're coming with you. He's attached to you. You can't run from it. So it's like, and it needs to be in this movie because they only have one location to film on. So it's like they had to come up with a reason. Why wouldn't they leave right then and there? And I know a lot of people with found footage, they always keep going back to, well, why do they continue to keep filming? And I feel like the majority of these do a good job trying to explain that at least, but because it's a fucking movie and they need to film or we can't see what they're filming. I get it. It's kind of like a give and take. Like, you have to just accept that they're going to keep recording. Yes, I would like them to try to explain it a little more sometimes, but they don't really need it. They're just fucking filming. Accept it or stop watching. Jesus. So stupid to bitch about it all the time. And I like that she's a student and he's a day trader. That explains why they get to be home all the time. Mika lies to her about the camera being on when he's trying to have sex with her after she said no to having sex with him on camera, which is kind of a shitty thing to do. I mean, it's one character flaw in Mika. It's kind of a scumbag move, but it's still funny. I mean, I like the scene. He turns on the camera after and he's like, that was illegal in, you know, Kentucky and like 11 other states or something. That's a funny line. And I love when she screams and she's in the bathroom, like he goes to help her and then he's like, wait, and he goes and he grabs the camera and she's like, did you go back to get the camera? That's so something I would do. And he saves the spider, yet another thing I would do. See why I like him? And later in the movie, he starts blaming Katie because she didn't divulge that she had been haunted her whole life. You know, because she's like, well, what was I supposed to do on the first date? And he was like, yeah, well, on the 15th date, on the 30th date, you know, right before we moved in together, you could have told me. So their relationship just slowly starts to fall apart. And I think that's what works for me about this one and other entries in this, is just watching a seemingly great couple or family start to slowly fall apart after what they seem like they're this awesome couple or this awesome family that really should be happy, and this entity has come in and it is just destroying everything and taking their life, both, you know, literally and figuratively. And you know, Mika calling him out and saying you're worthless. I mean, everybody in the theater was just groaning like, oh, fuck. And of course it gets like much worse after that. And then he plays this whole bullshit card where he says he won't buy a Ouija board and he just borrows one. That's so something I would do as well. Oh man, any way that you can manipulate it like for your own shit, man. Oh man, that makes me laugh. And this, I think that, you know, they play off of the idea that it's fear that brings this thing to fruition. The more you fear it, the more that it can come and attack you. And obviously, throughout these films, we see that filming makes things worse. We're filming it, and things just keep getting worse and worse and worse, and nothing was all that much happening up until they started filming. I don't know why that would be. I don't know why the demon would want to be caught on tape, but it does steal the tapes in part 3, although we are still seeing it in the theaters, so I'm not sure how that works, but we'll save that for the 3rd movie review. The whole, like, Katie standing by the bed all creepily for 2 straight hours and then walking outside and sitting in the cold and then just kind of not knowing what was going on. I remember that being super creepy in the theater. And one of my favorite lines in the movie is when Katie's pissed off because Mika has a Ouija board, and she's like, "What did you do, Mika?" And she's like yelling at him, and she's like, you know, "And then you go out and you buy the best fucking Ouija board I've ever seen in my life." I don't know why that line made me laugh so hard in the theater, but I thought that was hilarious. And I have to say, like, up until this point, it was pretty iffy on what was happening. But as soon as that Ouija board starts moving itself and catches on fire, no fucking way. No fucking way. He'd have every paranormal investigator in the state coming over to look at that. No. That would have been the end. That was too much. Like, that was so over the top. If you saw that and you looked at the footage, that would be it. And it spells out Diane, which then he goes and looks this girl up online, and it finds a girl that had a very similar thing to her back in whatever year and had an exorcism and ended up dying. And why it directed them there, they don't really ever elaborate on that in the series. I kind of wish that they would have somewhere. I've been looking for it. If it pops up anywhere else, I don't remember it. But yeah, that's just one that they kind of brought up and never really brought back in. And just this whole, everything obviously in this movie would be absolutely terrifying in reality. And then Mika's picture gets scratched and punched and broken. Why the thing hates him so much. I mean, he's egging it on, I guess, but it's just funny to me that he's like marking, like, "You're done, dude. I'm sick of your shit telling me I'm worthless." All right, we'll see that. And then Katie being pulled out of bed. Another thing that's like, nope. As soon as I saw that, nope. We are leaving this house. We're going to a police station. I'm showing them this footage, and we're going to stay in a fucking cell. Like, we're going to stay right there in the lobby until people come and the Vatican is called and an exorcism is performed. And like, things get so out of control before they actually do anything. And then when she gets bit, and throughout these movies, like in this one and then in the second one, like once Katie and Christy get bit, then they become possessed. Like then they, like that bite is the marking that they've taken over that body. When she goes upstairs and he's just like yelling at her and he's like, "Yeah, go hang out with your friend." I don't know why I think that line's so fucked up, but it truly is to me. It's so mean. And Mika like takes the cross that she's like clutching onto and bleeding, and he throws it in the fire, and he's like, "I'm fucking done." I don't really understand that part. Like, I think you need that cross more than ever. You need to find Jesus. I'm not a believer in anything, but this was happening. I would all of a sudden become Christian and Muslim and fucking Catholic and Buddhist and Jesus, anyone. I'd be looking up all the different religions online and swearing my allegiance to Allah and everybody else. And when Katie talks, she has like 2 different voices, and which just shows us, yeah, she's just gone by that point. This whole endeavor takes 3 weeks, so it's pretty quick build up when you really think about it. I mean, 3 weeks is pretty fast. And when Katie, I mean, if you're taking in, this is going to be spoilers for future movies, but if you're going to take into account the ending of The Marked Ones, watching this movie now and knowing what happened when Katie starts screaming out, Mika, Mika, and he runs downstairs. Like, she stands by the bed for like an hour and a half before she finally goes downstairs. Is she just waiting there for that kid that comes into her house at the end of The Marked Ones? Is she just waiting, and then like as soon as he's about to come, she like is told to go downstairs so that she can kill him and then kill Mika and throw him upstairs? Let's think about that. I mean, anytime I watch this movie now, it's completely been changed by the answers given to us in the ghost dimension. Whether or not you consider that part of the story, I do. But it's always cool now to be like, hear her screaming and being like, I know what's going on down there. And I know a lot of people like the mystery and don't like answers like that, but I think it's fun. When she throws him at the camera, I personally am not a huge fan of this scene because I don't like the face distortion thing. I think it completely kills all credibility in the film. Like, it just immediately takes me out of it. If I had any belief that it was going to be true, which of course I didn't, but if I was going to, that would instantly be like, nope, all right, that was fake. So I think that was a poor decision. I think it would have been cool if like she was standing in the doorway and the camera was still up and she just kind of like kept looking at it and just kind of like the camera just picked up and just threw itself into the wall, like with no one else in the room, just her standing there. It would have been like the ghost throwing it, whatever, it doesn't matter. It could have even done that, and she could have just been like killed Mika and been over his body and looked at the camera, and then it could have went blank. Like her coming at the camera or just even screaming at the camera. The face distortion for me is stupid. I don't like it at all. Yeah, I've actually been to this house. I drove out there. It's in my videos of my 1,000 subscribers thing, and you can see that if you watch that video. Oh no, I only took pictures. That's a fucking lie. I lied to your face. I only took pictures. It's not in the video. I should edit that out, but I won't. All right, guys, on to the next one.